It's so exhausting too. That's all. Like, it's just so exhausting. The charade. You're walking around like trying to manage everyone's expectations that you're probably better than you really are. And you have this internal conflict that I actually suck, but I don't want anyone to know that I'm suck. And it's yucky, right? It's like, it's so much better just to go, I'm here, I'm new, I suck, I don't know what I'm doing, I'm open, help me learn, and just let it go.
Kipp, welcome to the Order of Man podcast. In a little bit of a different setting, I wanted to interview you because I've learned so much about leadership, self-leadership from you. And I know we've had you on in the past, but man, it was so powerful and we got a lot of great feedback. So I think it's important, especially as we roll into 2026, to talk more about self-leadership, how to maintain discipline, how to stay structured, how to keep your eye on the prize, so to speak. So excited to have this conversation, man.
Yeah, I love it. The conversation of leadership is always a powerful one. I always enjoy the conversation. And I have to put this plug. Most poor leaders are poor leaders because they've gotten the authority or the title and they haven't tackled self-leadership first. And they think they can lead others when they haven't led themselves.
Why do you think those, because we all have had poor leaders that we're required to follow or be compliant with anyways.
Yeah.
But why do you think individuals like that are able to progress up the chain of command? Is it just time and service? Is it laziness? Is it like, what is it about bad leaders that they tend to get promoted at times? Not all the time, but at times.
Yeah. Well, and I don't, here's the funny part, right? Like, I would even hold on to the label of they're not bad leaders. They're just, they don't know better. And I think most organizations, in fact, the statistic is 82% of organizations, 82% of leaders that get promoted or individuals that get promoted to a leadership role do not have the skills necessary to effectively lead people. The system's broken. Most organizations, what do? I have this great developer, I have this great project manager, or this really great sales rep. Let's move them into a leadership role. Because we think leadership is doing the tactical work really well. So they should be able to help others do the same thing, right? No, it's a drastically different skill set. And thus we keep promoting individuals into positions of authority and leadership that don't belong there or lack the skills.
Do you think that anybody can be a leader? Because I don't know. I don't think that's the case, actually. You know, I've thought a lot about this. I think there are some people that have a really good baseline skill set, and maybe some of that is nurture, maybe some of that is nature, and they can refine it and they can hone it. And then there's other people that I just don't think they'd ever make a great leader. It could be their mindset. It could be their attitude. It could be their upbringing. It could be the way they view just life in general as a pessimist, and they'll never be great leaders. But maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, this is my thought on this. In fact, this is perfect because I had lunch with, do you remember Mike Schaefer from back in the day?
Yeah, of course.
He was a battle team leader in the Iron Council. We were having lunch yesterday, and he brought this up. He said, Kipp, I remember when you were talking to me about becoming a battle team leader, and I had imposter syndrome, and I was like, man, no, like other guys can communicate better than me. These other guys have these other skill sets. These guys have more experience. They have better titles at work, right? Like all those things. And you said something to me that resonated. He's like, and I didn't appreciate it, but I appreciate it now. It is the desire and the mindset of leadership matters more than the technical competence. And this is what we were talking about a little bit yesterday. Sometimes we'll learn tactics of leadership, how to effectively communicate. But what we don't address is what? Why are you in the role? Why do you care? Why are you here? To prop yourself up, to build yourself up, to stroke your ego? Or are you here to serve? Is it rooted in developing other people? And to your point, if someone's intent in leadership is to put themselves on a pedestal where they're higher and better than others, then they're not fit for leadership. And no training is going to get them fit for it. because that is their mindset by which they see the role. And that's as you know, shifting people's mindset. That's very difficult to do. Now, is it possible? Sure. But it's very voluntary. It's very within the realm of their control and very difficult to do in corporate settings. So to your point, can you teach leadership tactics? Absolutely. Can you shift someone's mindset so they have the right intent around leadership? Very difficult to do. And if someone doesn't have that, you can't train that out of them.
Yeah. And I think that's nature. Like, I think that has been developed over decades of a person's life through their experiences, through their culture, through their upbringing, through the conditioning their parents programmed into them. You know, I agree. I think that people can overcome that. I've had negative mindsets, never anything that I think was catastrophic or completely destructive, but I've certainly changed my mindset on certain elements. I do want to go back to something you said. I had made a post the other day about the term imposter syndrome, and I said something like, it's not real. It's just some fake thing that people made up to justify their own insecurities. And I had a lot of people agree, and I had some people disagree. They're like, well, and it was all respectful, but they said, well, you're mischaracterizing imposter syndrome. It's the feeling that you're not good enough, you're not worthy enough. That's stupid. Like, I don't know how else to say that. Just don't have it. That's the only thing you can do. Yeah, you're not. Of course you're not as good as you could be. Period. It's like, why do people get so hung up on this imposter syndrome thing? I think it's just a clever little buzzword that just kind of pisses me off now because it's overused.
Yeah. Here's the deal. We have to accept the idea that most people operate from a position of looking good and avoiding looking bad in what they do. It drives how we dress. It drives how we talk. It drives the accent that we inherit throughout our lives. It determines the car that we have, the home. And anyone that says, oh, I don't care what people think, you're lying to yourself. You absolutely do, right?
Yeah.
Like, we all operate. And imposter syndrome's in that it's that heightened focus of, I care too much about what other people think. And if there's one lesson, I learned this from you, whether it's directly or indirectly over the years of doing the podcast with you, but you mentioned this and I've latched onto it, and I'll just share it in a story. I remember, I don't know, it's been a couple of years. I had to do this keynote presentation. I was nervous, right? Mm-hmm. And what am I nervous about, really? About what people think about me. That's what I'm nervous about. It's very self-centered. I'm nervous about looking good. I don't want to mess up. I care about what people think. It's all internally focused. And I remember sitting backstage, getting ready for this keynote, and I thought, it's not about you, Kipp. It's about the message. It's about the me getting a message across that impacts people in a way for their betterment. Stop focusing on you. That's not why I'm here. And we lose ourselves in a greater calling. And that's what leaders do, right? A leader in a position where they're trying to prove that they're worthy of the position, what are they going to do? Constantly practice kind of authoritative approach, right? Because they're trying to validate that they belong there and that they're a good leader and that they're accepted. But if I let go of that and I say, no, my job here is to create an environment where people are winning, where they're growing, where they're achieving, and I lose myself in it, then you become a great leader. And hopefully everyone listening to this is like, oh, well, I'm not in a position of leadership. No, we're all in positions of leadership. The example I just gave, you could apply that to parenting. If your parenting style is, I want respect, I'm a good parent, and you're trying to prove yourself that you're some great parent and you've lost the point of raising children that will grow into adults that are learning and growing, that have fulfillment in their life, if you lose sight of that, you'll make about parenting about you. You'll make it about how you look and everything but your children, right? And so it's the shift of why we're in the role.
That is interesting. Yeah, I think about that with parents and their kids, and I do it too, is like the way you have them dress, for example, is a reflection of you, or the way that they
totally
play sports. You're like, man, my kid's not athletic, and so that's a reflection on you. But it's not, but you feel like it is.
Oh, it totally is. Like before we hit record, we were talking about the importance of self-awareness. It's like most people don't even know it, right? They're watching Timmy play basketball and they're getting frustrated with Timmy. And they're not sure why they're getting frustrated.
Because
And
he
if
sucks.
we're aware, we're like, I'm actually frustrated because he sucks, and it makes me look like I'm an incompetent dad. Oh, man, that changes things, right? I remember this with one of my older sons. He was a tough teenager, bless his heart. But you know what? I realized my upset with him wasn't so much in his decisions. It was in how he was making me look as a parent. Very self-centered.
Yeah.
And I was punishing him indirectly, right, for making my life difficult and making me look bad.
I mean, but the other side of it is little Timmy could not be good at basketball precisely because you are a bad dad. You don't go out and play basketball with him. You don't go out and play. And I know it's kind of funny in this context, but even in work, you know, we blame employees who aren't producing, but are we looking at ourselves and asking, did I give them the tools? Did I hire them in the right place? Did I give them the training? Did I give them the resources they needed to thrive? And if you didn't, then yeah, their performance is a direct reflection of your leadership. So in some cases, it's actually true. It is a direct reflection of how you lead.
Yeah. And in your example, one of the best things you could do is pour into them to help them win, not double down on they're bad and I'm a good leader and I just need to replace them.
I think that's a good point because I've seen a lot of people just jump to just, hey, firing or letting go or like you said, punishing them in some way, even just very covertly, instead of saying, hey, I don't want to fire people. I don't want to have resentment towards my kids or my employees. I want them to win. And so the first step is to pour into them, like you said, to lean into them, to train them, to give them everything they need. And then if they're not cutting it, then you can cut out your kids out of the will or whatever.
Yeah. Fire your kids.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't know. I just get caught up on this imposter syndrome, and it seems to me that we place so much emphasis to, this is your point, on just like the perception of others without just thinking, yeah, my job is just to improve. That's it. Like,
Yeah.
we're all here to improve. We're here to get better. You know, whether you're building something you've never built before or growing a business or leading a family or being a husband, you're not an imposter. You're just exactly where you are. That's it.
Yeah. Deal in reality. Yeah.
Right.
Well, let me ask you this. I'm assuming you hate the imposter syndrome because people use the label as a state of being, right? It's like, I don't want to do this thing. It's because I have imposter syndrome, period. And they use it as like some crutch to not move. And that's what makes it frustrating. Is that why that's frustrating for you?
Stop crying about not good enough. Of course you're not good enough. You're not dead, which means that you have room for growth. Somebody believed in you. So, like your wife believes in you. Your kids believe in you. Maybe your boss believes in you and promoted you. Maybe a client believes in you. Just shut up and just lean into the faith that they have in you and then improve. Like that's, I know that sounds harsh, but I'm so tired of hearing this crybaby talk about, I don't know if I'm good enough. You're not. Just get better.
Absolutely not.
That's it.
Yeah.
What do you think?
It's so exhausting too. That's all. Like, it's just so exhausting, the charade, you know, and we could relate this to jiu-jitsu, right? It's like imposter syndrome in jiu-jitsu would be the guy that's on the mats and he's doing instruction and then it's open mat, like it's open sparring. And he goes, yeah, you know, I'm not going to roll. And you're like, oh, why not? Imposter syndrome would be, I don't want everyone to know how bad I really am. And I don't want to get tapped by everyone in the class. So I'm just going to sit out. Right? That's the equivalent of imposter syndrome jiu-jitsu, which means what? You're not, it's the charade. You're walking around like trying to manage everyone's expectations that you're probably better than you really are. And you have this internal conflict that I actually suck, but I don't want anyone to know that I'm suck. And it's yucky, right? It's like, it's so much better just to go, I'm here. I'm new. I suck. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm open. Help me learn. And just let it go. You know, it makes me exhausted even thinking about it. I'm like, just let it go and just admit to where you are so you can start improving.
Well, but then you have the other conversation, which is vulnerability. right? Which I also hate. It's like, well,
Yeah.
the key to overcoming imposter syndrome is just being vulnerable. No, it's not. It's just being honest. I call it honesty. I call it humility. You go into jiu-jitsu and you get paired up with a purple belt or a brown belt or whatever. And yeah, you can just say, hey, you know what? This is my 6th class.
I'll do my best.
I'm going to is there something that you think I could work on? Or if you have feedback in real time, let me know. That's not vulnerability. That's just being honest and just acknowledging that you're not as good as you could be or will be.
Yeah.
And that's it. We put these funny labels on everything to try to, I don't know, justify or make it sound better than it is.
Let me ask you this, because I feel, I don't know, this is my take on it, but like when I hear that word, I'm like, it's really what I think a lot of us are trying to say is just being authentic or having integrity. And stop the charade, stop the bullshit, the faking it, and just being you. And they call that vulnerable. It's not really. It's just being honest and authentic with yourself, right? Or having integrity and not lying.
Right. Yeah, I think that's what it is. And even when you're talking with, well, I will say this: not everybody's entitled to access to you. Emotional access, mental access, physical access. Not everybody's entitled to that. And we kind of have made light of that in regards to social media because everything is newsworthy to some people.
Yeah.
And I do it too. There's things that, I'm building a canoe right now. And I think, oh, this is newsworthy. And I'm sharing this stuff, but is it newsworthy? No, probably not. But some people are interested. And so I think we get caught up in believing everything is really, really important to other people. But yeah, this idea of like just being vulnerable and just like sharing my truth with the world. That's not what a human being should be doing. Share it with the people who are important. So if you came home from work and you had a bad day and your wife's like, hey, are you okay? I think it's completely acceptable to say, you know what, babe? No, I had a really crappy day today. Boss yelled at me, lost a big client, missed the proposal, missed the deadline. And so, yeah, I'm kind of pissed. Like, I'm probably going to be a little short tonight. Has nothing to do with you. I'm just in my head a little bit. And, I'm sorry ahead of time. That's not vulnerability. That's just being honest with a person who deserves the truth from you.
Yeah. I totally feel that.
But some people will say, well, it's vulnerability because it makes a man weak. Only if you decide that it makes you weak. I can't think of anything in that sentence I just shared that would ought to make a man feel weak and inferior. I mean, you're a human being. Of course you have bad days. Of course things don't go well. Of course you miss the deadline. Of course you lose the client. It's part of life.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Where do you think men really struggle with self-leadership? Is there one or two things that you see recurring in individuals that because they're not leading themselves well, it translates poorly into leading others well?
Absolutely. I think there's 3 traps that we can get ourselves locked into. The first is that of a victim trap. And let's beat that up a little bit. And what I'm talking about, there are victims in life, and then there's having a victim mindset. And a victim mindset, the red flags that I always use is I'm waiting and hoping for something to change outside my realm of control. So I've given my power over to Ryan, right? It's like, maybe our relationship's not doing too well. And so I'm waiting, hoping for Ryan to change, right? Or I'm blaming others. I'm allocating blame. I'm making excuses. And because of that, what I'm not doing is self-evaluating my role in it. So I'm a victim. I've learned helplessness, right? It's everyone else's fault, and there's nothing for me to do. And because there's nothing for me to do, right? There's nothing I'm doing wrong. So I just sit back and be a victim of my circumstances and my surroundings. And it's very easy to do, right? Years ago, we did an order man event in Maine and we had, I don't know, 100 guys there, if I remember correctly. And
Yeah.
I remember I asked the group the question, and I didn't even remember the topic that we were talking about, but I asked the group, I said, by a raise of hands, and this is a group of men, how many of you believe that if only your wife would change a key number of things and how she showed up in the marriage, that you'd have a happier marriage? Every hand goes up, right? It's like, oh, absolutely.
Right.
If she would only
Sure.
do these things, right? And then it's like, all right, now out of those hands, how many of you guys have taken action towards resolving that or communicating that with her?
Yeah.
No one. We're all waiting and hoping, right? We're being victims, or we're saying that the quality of our marriage is dependent on who? Her.
Her. Yeah.
So I sit back and wait. So the first is just a victim mindset. And then the
Well,
others are actually.
I think there's an interesting thing about this, Kipp, is that I've often thought about it like this. There are actual victims of life.
Yeah.
You know, you get mugged. A business partner takes advantage of you. A brick falls off a
Abuse
skyrise
when you're a
and
kid.
lands on
Yeah.
your shoulder. You know, like things happen. Yeah, abused as a child. That's a victim. That's you're literally by definition a victim.
Yeah.
And then there's victimhood. And being a victim is a matter of circumstances, where I think victimhood is a matter of identity. So now you've identified with it. Now you've made it part of your story. You've made it part of why you can't get it. Your negative story, by the way. Why you can't get ahead. Why people are out to get you. Why if it weren't for bad luck, you wouldn't have luck at all. That's the victimhood mentality versus just being a victim. And I think it's important that you acknowledge where you went wrong in a relationship or a professional endeavor, or maybe got yourself into a compromising situation and you got mugged. You're a victim, but still you can identify what you might have done differently so as not to put yourself in that situation. And that's how you move from being a victim to being able to overcome that and not falling into this victimhood mentality.
Yeah. And if you'll notice in what you said, the key element is, what are you going to do with it? Got it. It's happened. Someone took advantage of you. You were abused. Got it. Okay. So what are you going to do with it?
Right.
But if you just drag it on as this code of it's almost, and let me pause. Is there a payoff? And that's the other thing we have to get clear on. There is absolutely a payoff, right? If I bring to you like, oh, let me introduce myself. My name's Kipp. I was raised with a poor family on a farm. I was abandoned as a child. Like, there's some badge of honor that I bring with that story, right? Because what most people will do will go, oh, that's so great that you overcame that, and woe was you, and I use it, and it helps me justify maybe even me playing small in the world, because if that was my upbringing, then where I'm at right now is awesome. So I don't have to show up any greater than I already have because I've achieved so much, right? Like, trust me, we are all getting payoffs around our victim approach, and people feed into it and feel sorry for us, and it helps us validate usually our current circumstances quite a bit. And so there's a reason why we do it, right?
Yeah, and there has to be. Otherwise, just because we're human beings, we wouldn't do it if there wasn't some payoff. But I don't think when people are talking about their past, as far as their achievements go, I don't think they're playing the victim mentality. I think they're just saying, hey, I'm proud of what I've overcome. I'm proud of what I've accomplished. I think where it really becomes a problem is somebody says, you might say, hey, how come you missed the deadline? You're like, man, like the boss wouldn't get me my stuff. Or you might say I'm just like, maybe you mess up and you do something stupid. You're like, I'm just a dumb kid from rural Utah. It's just to be expected. Or maybe you're a jerk to your wife and you're like, yeah, my dad was a jerk to me and my mom. So that's where I learned it from. Ugh.
Totally.
It's like, okay, totally. That could be true, but again, you're using it as a negative story. You're using it as an excuse for being a loser. And don't do that. Don't do that. Like, use it as a moment of triumph, like, oh yeah, I was abused when I was a kid, and I'm a great father. or I grew up in a very
that.
poor environment, and now, you know, I'm able to provide for my family with this beautiful home, this car, and we're out of debt and we're investing. Like that should be a story of triumph, not sorrow and misery.
Yeah. And that's why those red flags of that victimhood or that victim mindset is waiting and hoping, making excuses, allocating blame, and not progressing in your personal growth. If you're doing those things, those are the red flags I use to say, all right, I might be having a victim mindset around this. Absolutely.
Yeah. I know you've got more, and you've got two others. I want to get to that, but
yeah,
if you are noticing those red flags, those little trigger warnings that you should pay attention to about you playing the victim game, how do you begin to change that? Like, because it's easy just to say, well, don't do it. And I tend to use that as an answer. Just stop doing that.
totally.
But that's easy for me to say because I don't feel like I'm a victim of my circumstances. It's easy for me to say imposter syndrome is dumb because I don't feel that way. But I know people do. So how do you begin to move into a different mindset away from the victimhood mentality you've embraced?
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, this has worked. Like I have literally used this, not this framework because it wasn't a framework for me, right? In those areas of my life back in the day.
Yeah.
But when I look back at it, I'm like, yeah, this is actually the process. And the process is first, we have to deal in reality. Is the marriage difficult right now? Yeah. You know what? It sucks. I'm not happy with it. She's not happy. We're struggling, right? Or I'm not good at public speaking, or whatever the thing is. Like accept the circumstance for what it is. This is the case. And then the second part is, then we move to, how do I identify my role in it? What's my role in it? And let go of what other people are doing. And full disclosure, right? Everyone listening is like, does it matter how your wife shows up in the marriage? Absolutely it does. I'm not saying like it's all up to you, right? But what I'm saying is you have a role in it. So where are you? Where can you take responsibility? What are you doing correctly? What are you not doing correctly, right? Like identify your role in this circumstance. And then we find a solution and we move to action. And the solution might be, hey, I'm showing up in a negative way. I'm hot-headed. I'm berating my children on a regular basis, right? Absolutely, that's not, regardless of what my wife does, regardless of what my kids do, I shouldn't be doing that. And that's not helping. So you know what? I'm going to change that. I'm going to focus on what's within my realm of control. I'm going to take responsibility for it. My solution moving forward is X, Y, Z, and I start taking action. And what's fascinating about it is we influence each other. And I'm not going to guarantee that like you show up as a great husband and all of a sudden your wife's going to be amazing, right? But the chances are absolutely a lot higher. And most importantly, a life of empowerment is a life of taking ownership. Victims feel disempowered. Why? Because they're a victim. Everything outside of my control is dictating my life. It's a horrible, yucky space to be in. And all the circumstances could be exactly the same. And the only difference is I'm taking action with what's within my realm of control. I'm going to feel 100% better because I've addressed the integrity gap of what I know I should be doing. I'm in integrity in spite of all my circumstances. And it creates a good recipe for possibly improving the circumstance and you influencing other people in a positive way.
The integrity gap is so interesting too, because I talked to you yesterday about an apology that I had to make. And that was a gap for years. That was a gap that I had in my life that I needed to fix, that I needed to bridge. And what I've noticed every time I need to bridge this integrity gap, it always feels really bad. It's not fun. It's not enjoyable, which is why we don't do it. Because if it was fun, you wouldn't have any integrity issues.
But did you feel 100% better once you had the conversation?
Not even that. Once I sent the message, sending the message, I was thinking about sending the message, leading up to sending the message, typing the message out, hitting send, wondering how they were going to respond. That was horrible. And then once I hit send and washed my hands, so to speak, man, just lifted a weight off of my shoulders that had been there. And what's interesting too, I noticed about that circumstances and other circumstances in my life is it lifted a weight that I didn't know was there because I got so accustomed to carrying it around. And I think that's the baggage that we carry. We don't actually know we're carrying extra baggage. If we knew that, then we would set it down, but we don't. We've become so accustomed to it, and we've built our life around making it more manageable to carry. Sometimes that's self-sedation. Sometimes that's built up, pent up frustration and resentment. Sometimes it's just stuffing everything down. And we come up with these little tactics and heuristics in order to manage the weight that we should not be carrying around. And it isn't until you do something and set some of those rocks down, you realize, holy, I didn't even know that was a weight on me. It was. It's very insidious.
Maybe another way or something to add to what you just said, because I just think it's, I don't know, for me it's profound, is when we're out of integrity, right? When there's this integrity gap, or we're practicing what I call self-betrayal, it has to be justified. That's what we do as humans. We have to justify the action. Otherwise, it'll eat at us too much, right? So if I don't address that relationship issue or get complete with that relationship, I have to justify why not. Okay, well, I'm not because they're a problem. And I have to drag that with me always to justify my state of being. And it's not until I take ownership of it that I can let that go. This is why you find adults in their 20s, 30s, and 40s having conflict with mom and dad about how they were raised. You know, it's been 20 years. Why are you still holding on to that? Why? Because I have to keep that story going for me not to address the issue. That's how I live with myself. And it's not until we address the issue that we can really let all of that go.
Well, that's interesting. Yeah, I really hadn't considered it that way. You have to justify it. Otherwise, I can't. The things that I've done in my life, some good, some not so good, and I'm sure every other human would feel the same. We wouldn't be able to live with ourselves if we couldn't justify some of the crappy things we've done to other people.
Totally. And usually that justification is is the precursor to having conflict with another human, usually. Right? Like, give you a hot topic, right? Let's use the hot topic of pornography, for instance. Mark my word. I almost guarantee it. I don't know if this is true or not, but if I had to guess, any guy that has an issue with pornography has justified it due to his relationship with his wife. Right? She doesn't have sex enough. She doesn't love me. She doesn't appreciate. Like, that's all the justification of it.
Or even positively, it helps our sex life and it helps us be better connected. So it works on both ends of the spectrum. It has to be
justified, right? But in the event that it's a negative towards his wife, like he's blaming her for it, now you start wondering, okay, is it the pornography that's hurting the relationship? Or is it all the blaming he's doing towards her to justify the pornography that's hurting the relationship? Right. And it's probably a combination of both. He is so mad at her, so he could justify action. You don't think that internal dialogue saying she's the problem isn't affecting the relationship as much or if worse than the actual act itself? Absolutely it is.
Yeah.
Right? He's creating conflict in his justification with her.
Well, what I've seen is interesting is that men will say this, especially in regards to pornography, single men, for example, is they'll say things like, well, when I get married, then I'll stop watching pornography.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you won't. Just because you're having maybe more frequent sex than you are right now, you're not going to just change your behavior because your circumstances changed. Yeah. You have to change your circumstances, change your behavior, which leads to change circumstances. So Satya Sam, he's been on the podcast. I know you know who he is. He's an expert on overcoming pornography addiction. And his story, and I don't know all of the details, but he talks openly about him being addicted to porn. And he had said that when he made the decision to finally stop viewing and watching porn, that's when he began a relationship with his now wife. And I think they have 1 or 2 kids maybe. But it didn't happen. He didn't meet her until he stopped watching pornography. Because I think there's something that happens to our behavior when we're engaged in activities like that, that are self-sabotaging. And I had a guy on the podcast, his name's Skylar Lewis. He runs Rise Up Kings. And he said, Ryan, the worst thing that you could ever do is hide behavior. He said, if you engage in the behavior, it's better to be vocal and open about it than it is to hide, because the minute you start hiding is the minute you start to jeopardize your integrity. And
yeah, because you have to justify it if you're hiding it. Yeah.
Yeah. The way that you show up is going to be inferior if you're hiding behavior. So he says, if you're ever tempted to hide anything, you know you're going down a very dark path.
Yeah. Well, this is like it's kind of a softer, less critical, example of this. But, I was talking with my daughters the other day. Man, our house is chaos. We're like shifting kids in different rooms and all that kind of jazz. And my daughter's like, oh, I can't wait to have my own room. I'm like, oh, well, like what makes you so excited? Oh, I'm going to keep it clean. And I go, but you never kept it clean when you shared a room.
Right.
And she goes, yeah, but if it's my own room, I'll keep it clean. I'm like, until the excitement wears off. And she's like, what do you mean? I'm like, I promise you, Kika, right? That's how this works. People are always, they think the circumstances changes the behavior. And it's the other way around. You'll change your behavior temporarily because it's exciting. And then it will just be a room. And if you never address the behavior of maintaining cleanliness or whatever, then it won't make no difference. It's just like we all take care of our brand new car, right? For about a month, right? And then all of a sudden there's gummy bears in between the seats,
Or a relationship, somebody can be really good in a relationship for a month or two, and then all of a sudden they start changing behavior because they were on their best behavior and now they're not. So that changes too.
Yeah.
All right, so we beat the victim game to death. What's the second one of self leadership that you see, the 3 traps that men fall into?
Yeah, so these are all forms of being a victim, but they are elements of positions that we sit in. So the second is when we become an authoritative or a persecutor. And so
a persecutor.
Yeah. They lead through blame, fear, and control. Right. And so we can relate this to our kids, right? We are in a position of authority and control over them. Right. But if we use our position of authority and control to practice kind of the darker sides of influence is kind of what I call them, right? Where I use shame and belittlement, manipulation or whatever to get what I want, then it's really another form of victim mentality. If you really think about it, someone who overly persecutes someone else, they're just a victim with a title. That's why they do it. Now, here's the disclosure. Some might be like, well, I'm not in a position of title. Oh, you don't think you persecute? Oh, you absolutely do, right? Hey, honey, will you do this? She doesn't do it. What do? I stonewall. I withhold affection, right? I manipulate in dark ways. You absolutely do, right? We punish people for not doing what we think that they should do. And this is also another trap of victim mentality, right? Because we'll nonchalantly covert contract, put things on people and wait and hope that they'll make the changes. And we feel disempowered, right? Because the way they show up is affecting how we feel.
How do you talk with other people? Let's say you have to have a difficult conversation with, maybe it's an employee, maybe it's your boss, maybe it's your wife. It doesn't matter who it is. You have to have a difficult conversation about something they're doing or not doing that doesn't sit well with you. How do you do that twofold without persecuting? And number 2, without coming across as a complainer or a whiner? Because I've felt that way before. I've not said things to people that I need from them because I don't want it to come across as me being weak or me being, soft or investing too much in my feelings, that sort of thing, if that makes sense.
Totally. So before I answer the question specifically, let me say this. I think it's important that we get to the mindset that people are choosing to be around us. You have no control over people. We have expectations, right? Like I have expectations of what a wife should do. I probably have this book of life, this nonchalant book of life that is these rules that a wife should, right? And I think she should do those things. But guess what? She's going to do what she wants to do. And the fact that she's in this marriage today is because she chose that today. And she could easily change her mind and not choose it tomorrow. And no different.
Knowing you and your wife, she probably will, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And same thing with your employees. We have this tendency, right? We get into a business relationship and we're excited about this employee we're hiring. This is a partnership. They want what I want. We're aligned. And then we hire them. And then a lot of leaders move to, they need me. I don't need them. The minute you take that on, you start putting yourself in a higher position than them. And you start looking at things wrong, which will allow you to persecute more than you absolutely should. So we need
Isn't there value?
Yeah.
Isn't there value in that though? To have some level of that, for example, I think we talked about this the other day in dating when we were talking about energy, when a man has a large number of choices, he's able to make better decisions because he's choosing who to be with based on his own standards. But because he has a plethora of people to choose from. But if he's scarce and he doesn't, then he has to fit a square peg into a round hole. And I would assume that it would be the same with employees. If I have to have this employee and I need them, am I making it a desperate situation for me?
I see what you're saying.
And am I putting too much weight or pressure on them?
Yeah, let me shift the paradigm this way. All that you can be abundant and believe that I have an environment by which many people would love to join, right? And be on my team. I can absolutely believe that. And when I hire you, all that I'm doing is clarifying what I want, seeing what you want, and are we aligned?
Yeah.
And that's it. Are we aligned? Are we still aligned? And the minute we're not aligned, then we fix the alignment, or maybe this is no longer like what's best for you or what you want. It's that simple, right? But the minute we start like, let me try to get him to stay, and we do this with employees all the time. We manipulate the shit out of them, trying to get them to stay and not leave. Well, why don't we just clarify what is it that they want? What are we offering? And guess what? If they don't want it, maybe they shouldn't be there. Maybe they should leave. And that's what's in the best interest of them and the organization. Why? Because we're out of alignment. So I like to look at this from, we honor choice. Agency, it's a God-given thing. I connect to that from a religious perspective. And it's fascinating. It's like, from a religious side, we believe it, right? It's like agency and freedom and choice is so
we believe
important.
It for ourselves, not for other people.
Yeah. But then it's like, I have a job. No, that's different. It's like, I don't think that principle changes. I don't think God intends that choice to change. Just like teenage kids, the best way to raise a defiant teenage kid is to honor choice. Now, we create the framework, so there's consequences of choice, but growth is found where? In agency. That's why it's a godly principle. So it doesn't change just because we're in the work environment. In fact, that principle is just as strong in a work environment and in a home environment as it is from a religious text perspective. So we don't persecute. So if I have to have a tough conversation with someone, first I think it from this perspective. This is a realignment conversation. That, hey, and curiosity and honoring their choice. Right? And so if I have a conversation with an employee where expectations aren't met, the first question I have to ask myself is, did I clarify expectations? Are we even clear on what's expected. And if we are, then I'm coming back to the table saying, hey, Ryan, you and I talked about this. I felt like we were aligned at one point, that we both wanted these outcomes, but I'm not seeing that. What am I missing? And we talked about this yesterday, the power of curiosity. What am I missing? And we work through it. And you help me understand. And I'm operating from the perspective that you're an amazing person, that you're capable of greatness, and I'm here to support you. And maybe there's a number of factors of why you're not meeting my expectations. And guess what? Those factors might be me. Mm-hmm. But I'm operating from the place of curiosity. Here's the red flag I use. Most difficult conversations are difficult because I'm going into them with the idea that you're the problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I go, oh, I don't want to have this conversation with Ryan. Why? Well, because I don't want him upset. Why would he be upset? Because you think he's the problem is why. So let go of that judgment. The facts are what? Expectations here, results are here. I don't know why. Let's get curious and let's have a conversation around it.
Yeah, that's a good point. Because when you first said that, I was like, well, no, they might actually be the problem. They might not be getting you what you need and desire, whether it's a personal or professional relationship. And so I was going to disagree with you, but then you clarified, and I agree with this part of what you said, is that let's just go in curious. Hey, is there a reason you're not doing this? Is it something that you don't know needs to be done? Is it something that you don't want to do? And then we need to have a different kind of discussion. Yeah. Is it something that you are unaware of that is important to me? And just by bringing it up, now you know, and you can correct that behavior. I like that idea of curiosity as opposed to persecution. Here's
the crazy part. Most employee underperformance, and we'll use it. I only have the statistics for employees. I don't have it for kids underperforming, right? But
right, sure.
Most employee underperformance is not competence. It's how they feel.
Mm.
You're dealing with machines that make meaning. You're dealing with people that add meaning to everything. They're underperforming. Why? Because I don't feel appreciated. Why? Because you said this thing the other day. And like that's most of the problems are in how they see the work that they're doing, not in their abilities. And that's why AI
is going to take over everything, because you just don't have to worry about it.
You don't have to deal with this.
It's like, just perform. Here's the prompt. Do that without giving any meaning to it.
Yeah. But that's what it means to be human. And by the way, I've done this so many times, Ryan, where I'll share a quick story. I had an employee, he wasn't meeting expectations of performance. I knew what the problem was. Right? I looked at his calendar and we have these reports, and I looked at his stuff, and he's blowing through PTO like there's no tomorrow. Right? I'm like, dude, you're not working, right? Like you're just on holiday all the time. That's the issue. And I took my own counsel, and I thought, actually, I'm going to try this out. I know what the problem is. I'm absolutely right. But I'm going to choose to be curious instead and honor his agency. So I meet with him and say, hey, expectation, results, we have a gap. Help me understand what the gap is. How do I help you? And he comes to the table, and I'm just waiting for him to say, well, it's because I take too much PTO. Never brought it up. He never brought it up. And he's like, oh, he's like, here's the deal. Mentally, I struggle because when I get into the office, I feel like I'm already behind the 8 ball, and I'm like mad scrambling, and by noon, I'm already behind. And then I just feel like I can't make it up. And so I'm like, oh, tomorrow. And then I kick the can. And so he's sharing this mental block that he has. And I'm like, right. Well, what would the solution be then? And he goes, I just need to get up at 7. I'm like, that's your solution, is wake up at 7. That's the issue? And he's like, yeah, I think so. And I'm like, all right. Like, how do I support you in that? Next week, he's high performing. It's not a problem. That's what he needed, because he's a unique individual. Does it make sense? And it's fascinating to me. Right?
And just wake up 2 hours earlier is their solution. Okay.
Yeah. I'm like, hey, if you're willing to do that, I'll support you in it. How do I help? Is there anything I can do? But he's going to be more bought into that versus if I had the conversation like, hey, I need to talk to you about something. You're blah, 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 blah. You need to be compliant. You need to follow these things, right? And he's like, okay. And I'll just do the thing that my boss tells me to do because he created uncertainty, because I think my job's on the line if I don't make this change. That's all yucky. But I just went in there doing, dude, I want you to win. I want you to kill it. Team has to kill it, but you got to pull your weight. So help me understand what the issue is and how, and am I doing something? How do I help you? He walked out of that feeling supported, loved, and in control, empowered to resolve the issue, not told what to do.
Yeah. And if he wouldn't have come up with that solution, or let's say he did come up with that solution, but his performance continued, at some point you'd need to have a talk about, hey, we're not aligned in our...
And it's not fair for the employee to keep you on board while you take 5 years to figure out why you can't meet expectations, right? Like that's unfair.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
And,
it's unfair.
But at that point, and let me just point this in, Ryan, because I love this saying, and I've used this a couple of times, it just resonates with people, is you don't fire employees. They fire themselves. Employees, you don't promote employees. They promote themselves. You provide the clarity, the guidelines to make all of that possible. They take the action to determine the outcome.
Right.
And by the way, if they don't feel it, if they do feel like you hold the stick of termination or the stick of promotion, but not them, they're not operating from a space of autonomy and ownership. They're a victim to you. They need to feel that it's within their realm of control. They will outperform any other employee than one that you're the puppeteer for.
Yeah, interesting. All right, what's the third point? So we have victim,
puppet master. Yeah.
We have victim, persecutor, and then what was the third?
Rescuer is your rescuers. And our rescuers, man, once again, everything we do has a payoff, right? So what's the payoff of the rescuer? Oh, my team's
feeling
struggling. Good. Yeah, I'll swoop in. I'll save them. Yeah. I'll be the hero. Oh, they don't want to have that difficult conversation. Timmy doesn't want to resolve that conflict with his friend. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to call his parents, and us parents will fix it for him. Oh, kids are fighting in the backyard. Let me swoop in and save my kid from getting in an argument. These are all forms of rescuing. And the problem with this is we're victims still. Even the hero and the rescuer is a victim. Why? Because my validation is coming from who? From saving people. So I need problems. I need problems so I can swoop in and save people. And while I do that, I undermine the growth of those individuals. They don't grow. I'm robbing them from the challenges and difficulties of life and the circumstances of life. And instead of coaching them to deal with it themselves, I just come in and I save it for them. And these are the bosses that everyone loves, but the team underperforms. These are the bosses that everyone loves, but they can't scale. And the bosses run around with their head cut off, putting out fires all the time. And they're like, oh, and ironically enough, if you look at both of those scenarios, the hero or the rescuer, they also don't believe they're in their people. They don't believe Timmy can resolve it. No. They don't believe those employees can resolve it. So they do it for themselves. And because of that, they're constantly addressing things instead of serving the team, instead of focusing on themselves and their progression and strategic direction for them and their environment. They're just firefighting all the time. And eventually they get burned out. They get so fed up with it, and then they persecute the shit out of everybody.
This is the premise of leftism, by the way, too. It's a lack of belief in people. It's a pessimistic view about human potential, that people are incapable of rescuing themselves, and so I have to come do it because I want to feel good. It's very selfish.
And
it doesn't
and it
seem
goes
like
against human behavior. That's not how people learn and grow.
It's hard because with the rescuer, it doesn't feel selfish, but it is. It feels selfless. You're like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to help. I'm going to be. Okay, I like what you said. You're robbing people of the challenges, the struggle, the adversity, the ability to grow and learn and get better. That's powerful. Yeah, that one's hard. That's also the nice guy syndrome too, by the way. is
Yeah, they're
a lot of
rescuers.
nice guys are rescuers. Like, oh, I don't want to rock the boat, and oh, you need help with that? I can do that. I'll do that. And then they just get angry and frustrated and hostile and resentful.
Well, and the reason why is in the backside of all that rescuing, what are they expecting?
Probably
For
praise
people to
or
praise and appreciate them, but it doesn't go spoken. It's covert. It's all yucky, right? It's in that space of manipulation. It's just manipulation through kindness.
yeah, it's polite manipulation. Maybe we call it that. Polite manipulation.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. No, okay. So how do you overcome the ability or the desire to rescue people? Because again, I think that one might be the hardest. Like I think when you're being a persecutor, and I think you can work on that. I think when you're playing a victim and you can work on that. But the rescuer is going to be hard for a lot of people because they do want to be in service, and we also advocate for that too, to serve the team, to help the team, to be a team player.
Totally.
So it's a little conflicting.
You use this example a lot, right? I've heard you use this example. It's like when your kids are like, "Oh, I feel this way." You ask, you don't jump to the conclusion and go, "Oh, you shouldn't." You go, "What? Well, why? What is that? Where does that come from? What do you think?" "Oh, Dad, I'm struggling. I can't take the trash out because I'm not tall enough to lift the lid of the trash can." "Well, what could you do?"
Yeah.
"What are your options?" Right. And I think that focus is a focus of long-term strategic focus versus tactical. Persecutors are persecuting to win the moment. Rescuers are rescuing to win the moment. But human development is not in the moment. Human development is over time. So it's not about the project being successful. It's about the person learning so the next 50 projects are successful. It's not about the kid cleaning the room. It's about the kid learning the importance of doing something difficult. Because as a parent, what are you doing? Is my job to ensure clean rooms in a house? Is that my job as a parent? No. It's to raise humans. Oh, got it. I should probably rescue them then. I should probably think strategically about this and let Timmy deal with that conflict in that relationship so he can start figuring out how to do that now for when he's an adult. You know what I mean? He has some emotional regulation. It's really a short-sighted way of thinking. They're both of our forms of tactical wins versus strategic focus.
Yeah. Yeah, that's powerful. I like that framework, and I work really well under frameworks. You know this about me at this point, but having that 3-point framework of victim, persecutor, and rescuer, I think everybody listening can go in and say, okay, which one am I? And we're probably, like for me, I would say I'm heavily weighted towards rescuer over victim and persecutor. I think my victim score is very low. My persecutor is probably somewhere in the middle, and my rescue is probably pretty highly indexed. So that's something that even I can learn from and grow from. And I'm sure other people are different, So.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll jump, like I alluded to earlier, we'll jump between them. We'll rescue until we're just fed up, and then we're done. Right.
And then we turn into a persecutor.
And they'll persecute. Or what I've done is I'll overly persecute and then I'll feel bad about it. So then I'll swoop in and just rescue people to make up for it. Still manipulating them, still not letting them own the circumstance, still not coaching. I just dance them in between the two forms of manipulation to get what I want.
Yeah. What's the line between being a rescuer and being, for example, a team player or a good partner or a good husband? Or,
Well, and I think they're all rooted in this, that first we have to understand that challenges, as Andrew Huberman would say, stress is an enhancer. Difficulty is good, actually, if we have a growth mindset coupled with it. And so we need to stop seeing difficulty as some bad thing. Difficulty is an amazing opportunity to learn. And we need to double down on that way of thinking, right? It's no different, like Ryan, if you and I hit the gym today and you're doing curls and we're doing sets of, 20. And on set 10, you're like, oh my gosh, this is so difficult. And I steal the bar from you. Oh, I'll take care of it for you, Ryan. And I start curling for you. I just robbed you of this awesome opportunity. That's not what you need from me. What do you need from me? You need me saying, dude, you got this. And maybe a slight support, right? To push through some extra reps. I believe you got this, right? That's what you need for personal growth. You don't need someone yelling in your ear saying you're a worthless piece of shit and you can't do it. And you also don't need someone to steal the bar from you. You need support and coach and someone to believe in you and help you on your form and support you, in the rep and things like that.
Yeah. I wrote something down here as you were talking about it, that we need to stop looking at difficulty as bad, is what you'd said. And I said, and if I just wrote this, and if you don't like feeling bad, learn faster.
Totally.
Because I know for me in my own life, I have made the same mistakes over and over and over again. When I say learn, I should say learn and apply faster, because we could know what to do and still not do it. So I guess it'd be learning and applying faster, because if you don't learn the lessons that need to be learned through difficulty, then you're just going to continue to be, you might temporarily put a Band-Aid over it. Things will definitely get better. But then you're going to find yourself in the same kind of relationship, doing the same dumb thing. You're going to find yourself in the same way with your employment or your finances or your health or any aspect of life, because you didn't learn and apply fast and efficiently enough.
Totally. The gap of learning doesn't go away. The block is still there until you learn it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So let's learn it sooner than later. Can I share this quote by Andrew Huberman that I use? And this is really profound. This might help us really connect with the importance of stress. He says, to be able to learn something, we have to shift our nervous systems into states that are uncomfortable. Any successful type of learning and goal pursuits is going to involve errors, failures, anxiety, and frustration. Here's the key. All of those states of mind and body shift the brain into modes of neuroplasticity. They give the brain the ability to change. When there's stress, you literally learn faster and better. It enhances what you're doing when stress is involved.
It's painful.
Yeah. And this is why they become almost these defining things. I use Jiu-Jitsu as an example. Whenever I sign up with a tournament, there's an extra stress, right? When you do a tournament. And I remember those matches like vividly. Like even now, I remember like how I felt, what I did, where I put my hand, how I used leverage. It's heightened. My awareness of the situation is heightened because of the stress that was involved.
Yeah.
So it's good. Let's like embrace these opportunities of challenge and stress as opportunities to learn.
Well, and this, I think, helps us not solve, but come closer to the answer of why we have to. Yeah, this is interesting, because a lot of the times, some of the questions that we often get are, does a man have to hit rock bottom before he changes? Probably. Yeah. Because nothing else hurts enough. And it's the same reason why you could tell your 4-year-old little kid, don't touch the stove. Don't put your hand up there. And they do it a dozen times. You're like, fine, touch it. Go ahead. And they touch it like, that hurts. Like, yeah, it does hurt. Now you know, and you got your burn, and now it's going to stick, right? And it does, unless they're really dense. And there are some kids that are, where they think, well, maybe this time it's not hot. But, and adults do that too. They're like, well, maybe this time it's different. No, it's the exact same scenario. You didn't change. You're engaged in the same behavior, and the stove is still hot, buddy. But yeah, go for it. Yeah. Try it. See how it works out for you.
And the learning's here for us. It's not in you telling me what to do, seeking compliance, persecuting me to take action. I didn't learn anything. I was just compliant to what you told me to do. And the rescuer just like locks you in the room so you don't touch the stove. I still haven't learned anything, right? I still haven't learned the lesson. I have to learn the lesson, not you, right? I have to learn it.
Yeah, good point. Well, brother, I appreciate you, man. As always, I enjoy our conversations. This one was a little different and just allowed you to riff on leadership topics and principles. I know you've had some pivots and shifts in your life, in your professional life recently.
Stress.
Yeah, talk about stress. But tell the guys where to learn more about what you're doing with regards to self-leadership and leadership at in the professional and personal spaces as well. Tell the guys how to connect with you and learn more.
Absolutely. So I'm going all in, man. I'm going all in to developing, or actually I've already developed a leadership framework that I called Lead Stronger. And you can learn more about that framework and what I do at goleadstronger.com. And then obviously connecting with me on the socials at Kipp Sorensen and even on LinkedIn. But I'm excited, man. Like, you know, we've talked about this, but alignment is critical. And alignment for both directions, right? If we're in a position of authority, we want those that are serving on our teams to be aligned with the mission, right? Ryan, you want people aligned with what you're doing.
Yeah.
But it's also true for the individual, right? If I'm a battle team leader in the Iron Council and I'm not aligned with the mission of Order Man, it's not serving me either. I need to go somewhere where I'm aligned, where I feel like I'm in integrity, where I'm operating out of the space of autonomy, not being compliant to what you want. It's super important for all parties to be in that space. And so I feel that sense of alignment with me stepping away from the corporate world and coming back into entrepreneurship and focused on what I passionately think is really important, right? And I have alignment around. So I'm actually really excited about it.
Well, I'm excited for you. I know if there's one person who can do it and is well qualified and well versed in all of this stuff, you geek out on this leadership stuff in a way that I don't, but it's something I appreciate about you because I get to learn from you without having to like do it myself. If I just listen, I guess that's another thing. We don't have to touch the hot stove. We can just take somebody that we trust and is credible and say, hey, if they said so, then I'll believe that and I'm good with that. And we should all be looking for those credible resources.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Kipp, appreciate you, man. Thanks for joining me today.